The reason why I have not actually included text, images, or a video is because the topics which we would generally discuss have a lot of depth to it. So, it is better that I feel if we have one part of our sensory organ active, maybe the absorption would be better. And to understand Advaita Vedanta, it is actually a very complex topic at the outerior, but actually it's very simple to experience. So let me first break this word down. It might look a bit complex. So when we say Advaita Vedanta, let's focus on maybe Vedanta first. It's, if you look at Sanskritam, it can be split into Veda plus Anta. So it is just a calling called as at the knowledge which we comprehend at the end of Vedas is actually nothing but Vedanta. Now we have a lot of Upanishads, the knowledge we get after an Upanishad, and there are Veda Vyasa has written a lot of Brahma Suktas. In that, the knowledge which it comprehends is nothing but Vedanta. Now, to understand Upanishads is actually again a complex thing. So let's now try to understand from our point of view, in our experience, because Advaita Vedanta, what it talks about Brahman, about Atma, and the experiences it tries to comprehend as theory is very difficult for us to experience being in our day-to-day life. So let us try to reflect upon what we can actually experience on, because sometimes the theory is so rational and it is not so assertive that sometimes you feel that this theory is very far apart from us and this is something which we cannot respond to. So what Advaita means is nothing but something which is non-dual. I mean, non-duality is its meaning. So when we come from our own experiences, I can divide our own thinking pattern into three kinds. Okay, the first one is the random thoughts we get in our mind, which actually has nothing to do with us and our experience or our philosophy or our own behavior. There are a lot of thoughts we get when you sit down idle for 2 or 3 minutes. There are bombardment of thoughts about life, about bad things, good things, great things, which is just an engine and mechanism which just circulates like a periodic circle. And there is a second level which actually is called as, I call it as intellect. The second level actually is a functional thought, functional intellect, which acts upon these random thoughts. So when you actually apply your intellect on these random thoughts, let us say it might be something bad to you, about some fear, some thought is coming, and only when the intellect is applied and observing these random thoughts and passing judgment, the intellect is trying to reflect upon those random thoughts, is where emotion comes in. Let us say it might be about a small accident which might happen if you start from house now. That's a thought which has no base, no truth to it. It is just randomly generated, and when intellect applies into it, an emotion gets generated. And many people, many philosophies actually apply on these two areas of how the intellect should just observe the thoughts but not apply an emotion or don't pass a judgment on these random thoughts, because these are random. You have no control on that. But the beauty of Advaita Vedanta, it goes beyond that other layer, that is a third layer, which is actually awareness. So what Advaita Vedanta tells is that you are an awareness which also observes the intellect. For example, there's a thought that when I wake up tomorrow at 6, I might have a great time, is some random thought you get. The intellect applies onto that and feels happy, and you say, okay, maybe if I wake up at 6, I would get maybe good marks. That's actually an intellect speaking after the thought has spoken. Now these random thought and also the intellect which is applied on this random thought, this all one part of our brain or something is just observing it. There is awareness in our brain which watches everything, watches the intellect, watches the random thought, watches our body, watches your mom walking, dad walking, watches everything, just watches. It's just aware. It doesn't react, it doesn't speak, it doesn't smell, it is just the awareness. That awareness is what Advaita Vedanta calls the true self and calls it the Brahman. And it says this awareness in you is not indistinct or indifferent than the awareness in your mom, your dad, your friend, your sister. The indifference between these two, there is no difference between, you can't distinguish between these two. The awareness in everybody in the world is same, and that awareness, that oneness is the core philosophy of Advaita Vedanta. It is just like if you look at an iron ore, the iron can change forms, but the basic amalgamation is actually from the iron ore. So you can see whatever you can see in the world, you distinguish between you and the world, you and your mom, you and your wife. But the point is, there is no indifference between them. There is no that indistinction which you make is what Advaita Vedanta opposes and talks about oneness. That awareness in you, in the world, is the only truth, is what Advaita Vedanta speaks about. So I think this understanding and this experience people can have, and I think this grounding is actually will act as a base to understand what more the Upanishads and Vedavyasas have to say, because it's in Sanskrit. You need to have a proper base upon which, because this theory is so rational that it sometimes looks very artificial. So I think this grounding is very important, and I hope I give some understanding of what I have about Advaita Vedanta, which is one of the greatest philosophies in India. Thank you. Jai Hind.